Melita Easters is the founding chair and current executive director at Georgia's Windless. They have already trained more than 200 women to run for office during 2017's Winning Women Boot Camps, and they're planning to grab them by the midterms in 2018.
Melita, thank you so much for joining us and coming on the In Contact show.
Thank you for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Thank you. I read this. Georgia has the highest percentage of black women in its General Assembly for any state in the nation. Did the Georgia Windless contribute to that?
Absolutely. And we're very happy to say that we have the highest percentage of women in any Southern legislature, black or white, and now the first Latina. We have helped elect 55 women in our 17-year history, 31 of whom still serve in the General Assembly. So absolutely, we've helped elect both black and white women, but we're very happy to say that Georgia has the highest number of African American women of any state in the nation. And you know, Georgia's been a leader in electing women or having women in political office. Shirley Franklin was the first African American woman mayor of a major southern city. Leah Sears Collins was the first state Supreme Court Chief Justice, the first African American woman for any state in the nation. So Georgia has a history of being progressive about women in politics.
And people don't think that. They're like, oh, we're in the South, but we're leading here.
We lead the South. And not only do we have the most women in our General Assembly, a higher percentage of those women are progressive, pro-choice, democratic women. And that's the lens we use for whom we endorse.
What's the struggle when it comes to black women in politics? Why is it that these statistics, these percentages, what's going on? Why is it still that it's so low?
It's low for all women. In Georgia, we were 32nd in the nation 17 years ago. We have now surpassed and risen to 25th in the nation. We have 25% of our General Assembly who are women. And actually a good number of those are African American women. So Georgia is actually more progressive about electing African American women. And I think African American women have the double stigma of being a woman and the skin color. And so that makes it more difficult for some of them when they run for office. But for any woman running for office, it's a lot of knocking on doors and hard work. That's what wins.
You spoke about what makes you choose a certain or endorse a certain amazing woman. What is that? What are these things? When we spoke earlier, you even said that you've taken this to a whole different level when it comes to this organization.
Windlist probably has the most rigorous process for how we endorse a candidate. Most groups just have a questionnaire. And of course we have the questionnaire. But we also require a campaign plan, a fundraising plan, and a budget, because that tells us a woman knows what it takes to run, what it takes to win. And of course we offer trainings that allow women to learn how to devise that campaign plan, how to develop that budget, and how to raise that money. But our endorsement has developed a cachet amongst other groups. When Windlist endorses a woman for office, then other groups know that they can count on that woman knowing what she's doing.
Right. I mean, I remember, and we spoke about this earlier, when I interviewed and had a conversation with Park Cannon, she said, you know what, I think that women sometimes don't know that they can do the impossible. I'm black, I'm gay, I'm young. I mean, I'm registered as queer.
Park Cannon was a fabulous candidate. We were thrilled to be the first group to endorse her. She ran against two men, one of whom had served in the legislature before, and she made the runoff and won the race. But she worked hard. She got out there and got in the community and knocked on doors, and she was an energetic, well-spoken, eloquent candidate.
Yes.
And that's what it takes. Another candidate who got elected in the 2016 cycle is Renita Shannon, who had only been living in Georgia for 3 years when she ran for office. She ran against an incumbent man who had reversed on the issue of choice, and she defeated him. But she knocked on a lot of doors and she worked hard. Her mother and her aunt came down from out of state and helped her knock on those doors. It's a lot of hard work to win, but it's worth it. because women get to have their voices heard.
Right. What advice do you feel you need to give to women that are even considering?
Well, when women are considering running for office, we encourage them to look at the kinds of offices they might run for and to actually go to the meetings, whether it's the school board, the city council, the county commission. If it's the General Assembly they're thinking about, then they need to spend a couple of days at the state capitol watching what goes on. It's a real shame when somebody makes the effort to run for an office and then they get there and decide they don't like it. All these people have given money and knocked on doors for them, and then it's not a good fit. They're not well suited for that kind of office. So the first thing to do is to learn as much about what is required to serve in that position before you decide that you're going to run for it. And then the other thing is to really make sure that your family and your job and even your dearest friends are all encouraging and supportive of your run for office. We've actually had women who run for office because they haven't really checked it out with their place of employment and end up being fired because of the demands of the office interfering with the job. So there's a lot of prep work. It's really not something you decide you're going to do on the day qualifying opens and plop down the check and figure it out later. You really have to start your planning for running for office months and sometimes even years in advance.
What do you want the world to know about this amazing organization? If you can go ahead and just tell me, what is that?
The thing that I would love for people to know about Georgia's Win List is that we exist to encourage women to run for office. Everyone can help us do that because women need to be encouraged 7 times before they decide to run for office. The other thing
7 times more than a
7
man?
times. In other words, they need to be asked 7 times.
Wow.
Men wake up, look in the mirror, and think, by God, I think I'll run for something, maybe even president. Women have to be encouraged to run by others. So Winlist would love to have all of your viewers think about who in their life might make a great candidate and encourage them to run. And then the other thing is, we raise money and we spend it wisely on women candidates who we know will make effective advocates for women and their families, for equality and for the protection of reproductive freedom.
What's next? Is there anything?
We are working to grab them by the midterms in 2018. It's going to be a great year. We have more than a dozen women, almost 2 dozen women we're talking to about various offices around the state. We typically have 20 women in our Win Leadership Academy. This year we have 80. It's a year-long training program to train women to run for office.
Oh my goodness, I am so excited.
It's great.
Melita, thank you so much for joining us on In Contact today. I can take you the whole show.
Well, thank you. I'll come back.
You promise?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to tell you so much great information. Stay in contact. We'll be right back.